Okay, so let's move on. Now, the time has come for our opening speech. And it is not a coincidence that we are in Copenhagen today. In this room, we are gathered from multiple countries, mainly from the Nordics. And Copenhagen is also the office, it's the city, of the UNDP Nordic Office and the region of the Nordics. UNDP stands for, it's one of the UN entities, and it stands for United Nations Development Programme. And is United Nations Development Agency working in 170 countries and plays a critical role in helping all these countries to achieve the SDGs, the global goals. UNDP has also been instrumental in the learning and development of Heart 17 in many different ways, providing us and many others with the knowledge, support, and passion. So with us today, we have Henrik. And it is with the greatest pride, honor, and pleasure that I today welcome our rock star and UNDP Nordic Region Director, Henrik Fredborg Larsen. Welcome, Henrik. Oh, so great to see you. Henrik, you have more than 20 years of experience in these matters and working as a senior manager and policy advisor in many different topics, and we look forward to hear your opening speech. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Anna. Let me move this a bit. Thank you so much, Anna. I'm excited to see such a big crowd gathered here today, creatives, academics, young leaders, entrepreneurs, all of you coming together to celebrate and mark the World Creativity and Innovation Day. Thank you to the organizers, Anna Riot, Heart 17 partners, for inviting me to be part of this, for shedding light on the critical role that creativity and innovation plays in creating hope for the SDGs, in creating progress for the SDGs. In July 2020, 19-year-old Gabriela, a musician from Bahia in Brazil, went out onto her balcony and started playing her violin. As the pandemic restrictions forced everyone to be inside, being in isolation, thousands of young people like Gabriela felt depressed and lost interest in activities. To turn apathy into action, Gabriela, together with almost 2,000 of her fellow orchestra members, connected by playing together from their balconies and windows. Isolated, yet together. Gabriela is part of a program supported by UNDP that works to encourage growth and integration of vulnerable young people through music education. When we asked her about her experience during COVID-19, she says, "Music keeps me sane. It gives me hope." Gabriela and the orchestra members do not just tell a story about young musicians in Brazil. They tell a story about how activities such as music can be so much more than an artistic expression. They can create connections and hope, inspire action. It tells a story about how she and millions of people, communities at local and global level, adapted, innovated, and used creativity to deal with the uncertainty of life during the pandemic. The pandemic is not our only challenge in the world that we are currently facing. Halfway to the Sustainable Development Goals, we are living through what our newest Human Development Report calls a new uncertainty complex that is threatening our ability to achieve the universal goals we have also subscribed to with the Agenda 2030. To end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people can enjoy peace and prosperity. So what do we mean by a new uncertainty complex? Multiple crises are impacting our deeply interconnected societies. Shocks that occur in one sector or in one country can quickly have cascading consequences elsewhere. often in ways that we are increasingly unable to predict. It's happening at a rate and a scope that we have never experienced before. Global warming, environmental degradation, climate change, the war in Ukraine, and the interlinked cost of living and energy crisis have both individually and in interaction with each other led to a rise in poverty and an increase in social unrest and conflict around the world. These challenges also felt in the Nordics and bear witness to our global interconnectedness. Just like Gabriella, thousands of young people had to adapt to a new and more uncertain reality, offset by the pandemic and the growing physical manifestation of climate change. For the first time in 3 decades, in the 3 decades that UNDP has measured human development, we see a near universal decline. 90% of countries experienced a decline in their human development in 2030, most of them a continuing decline in 2022. The need for international cooperation has never been greater. Despite that, we see a tendency of countries to turn inwards and close on themselves. It is easy to feel paralyzed and discouraged by the lack of progress towards the SDGs and the recent reversal of hard-won development gains right now. Research shows that the majority of young people across 10 countries are suffering from high levels of anxiety and distress over the state of our planet. But as stated by our UN Secretary General, losing hope is not a strategy. In fact, without hope, a strategy has no value. We can choose to be paralyzed by despair, or we can choose to turn the narrative around and collectively turn apathy into action, show that change is possible. This requires that we see opportunity in uncertainty and complexity, that we invest in creative and innovative approaches, that we dare to collectively make bold decisions. We have done it before, and we can do it again. Returning to the example of the recent pandemic, thanks to the development of effective vaccines and tremendous international collective efforts, smallpox, another major killer disease, was declared eradicated in the 1980s. During COVID-19, vaccines saved an estimated 20 million lives. In 1 year, thanks to innovation and political will, 20 million lives. The COVID-19 pandemic also made possible for us to imagine and feel what a sustainable future could potentially look like. Some cities reduced air pollution by as much as 60% as human activity slowed down. While the pandemic had and continues to have devastating impacts on people and communities, it also demonstrated the power of creativity and innovation, coupled with collective action in responding to new and complex challenges. For many, it further demonstrated that the old normal is no longer good enough. Today's event is precisely about this. It's an occasion to consider how we creatively and collectively can seize the opportunity that uncertainties present, rethink our approaches, and change our mindsets for a hopeful future. Achieving the Sustainable Development Goals in the next 7 years will not be easy, and we do not have all the solutions, all the answers, but it's the only way to achieve the future we want for our people and planet. The newly published Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC report on climate change, states that the choices and actions implemented in this decade will impact our world and our lives for the next at least 1,000 years. This is why we must make an active choice to accelerate action now. And we must make sure that young change makers are part of leading the way. In UNDP, we see 3 critical enablers to get the world back on track and accelerate action. First, we need strategic innovation for systems transformation. We need to move away from single-point solutions. Second, we need to harness the power of digital technology to respond more effectively to today's and future challenges. Third, we need to make sure capital flows are aligned with the SDGs and climate action. Today, we will hear from companies, organizations, entrepreneurs, artists, young advocates, many others that are deploying innovative approaches for sustainable development, working hard to reach the SDGs. Without sufficient financial support and greater risk willingness, many sustainable business solutions will remain small scale and fail to reach their full potential. This is why UNDP has articulated a moonshot in our strategic plan to promote the investment of at least $1 trillion in public and private capital to meet the SDGs. I hope, and I want to say this in closing, that today's discussion will allow us to reflect upon, share and identify some of the key steps that we together, working across sectors, can take to find opportunities in uncertainty and bring us back on track, achieving the global goals. I hope that we can all do as Gabriela, see opportunity in uncertainty and turn apathy into action. I hope that you will respond to the call from our UN Secretary General to come help rescue the SDG. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're coming behind. Thank you, Henrik.
And thank you so much, Henrik, and for all the good work and the valuable work that you and your team brings to the world. And Henrik will be staying around for a few hours, so thank you.
So you can come and ask him questions.